Hello and welcome to As We Go. It's time for a mid-season garden tour and a to-do list. So here we are at the end of the strawberry season. It ended end of June, so it's been gone for a little while. But the deer have been chomping on the strawberries and need to go through and just weed a little bit. Also, it is Japanese beetle season. We don't like these guys because they just rip apart our plants every year. Here's our grapevine, which has doubled in height and size. Last year it did get to be about that big, so this one hasn't gotten too much bigger. And I don't remember which kind is which. One of them is Somerset and one of them is Concord. So our asparagus are almost done. I went ahead and mulched it up with some leftovers from the chickens, and we'll just be chopping those down. And here are our raspberries. We're just ending our raspberry season. And what I'm going to do next is come through with the clippers, and anything that bore fruit this season is getting clipped all the way down to the ground because it will be a stick like this one. This was from last year and I didn't get to it. So the berries are basically done, so I'm going to go through and just clip off these sections here, and that will hopefully, that will be my attempt to keep these raspberry beds a little bit cleaner, not quite so overgrown. So our herb garden has been horribly neglected, but we have our cilantro here. Here's our thyme, and it definitely needs to be weeded. I did get the dill weeded and trimmed down. As you can see, I don't know what I'm doing with the dill, but our lavender, I'm so excited about it. It's beautiful. And it smells so good. My husband will come and just rub his hands along these leaves and then stick them up in his face so he can smell them. I don't know if any of you recognize this. This is lemon balm. Also getting eaten by the Japanese beetles. But these guys started out as tiny little plants, and as you can see, they're doing great. We have them in the bins. They have zero access to the actual soil because these bins are sitting right on top of weed mat. We did that on purpose because I know that these I love lemon balm, but I also know that they can be invasive. So that's why the mint, and this is our mint that I've trimmed down. Our mint and our lemon balm, I'm trying to keep them under control just in these little bins because I know how good they are at growing out. Here is our Japanese beetle patch, our sweet potato patch. Super excited about how big and overgrown this is. We will harvest these, probably September. It is now almost August, so I'm really excited to see. Last year we had them in that bed right there, and we had a pretty good harvest, but this year I'm hoping to see a whole bunch of nice big ones. We've let our spinach go to seed. We've let our lettuce go to seed. One, because next year we might get some volunteers, which would be pretty awesome. But also because they keep the weeds down. Like, as you can see, this is another to-do list thing. The grass in here is a bit much. We do have a lot of weeds that I need to come through and weed out, but not nearly as much as we would have if we hadn't just kind of left them in there. So carrots, I wasn't sure if we would get any carrots this year. Look how big and tall and beautiful that is. Yeah, they need to be weeded too. The weeds are a little they always are out of control. I like to tell myself that this is the best year ever for weeding because I've been mostly on top of it, but really if you just let a little bit of grass through, it's ridiculous how quickly it takes over. So, but our carrots here are looking really big and healthy. Every once in a while I dig down a little to see if I can see. Oh, this one's going to be a nice big white carrot. This is our kaleidoscope carrots. So we'll have some that are purple, we'll have some that are white. Obviously, we'll also have the orange carrots. I've dug down to that one. This one here looks like it's a purple. Yeah. That's going to be a purple carrot. And it's huge. And these, the nice thing is, they just stay in the ground until we want them. So last year, a bunch of them went to seed really fast. And this year, it's just beautiful. So there's our raised beds that we aren't using this year. They've made a nice little weed patch for us. And then these are some of my flowers that I plant to try and encourage pollinators. Now, these petunias started out as just tiny, tiny little seedlings. I didn't think much of them because I didn't think much would grow, but they're doing great. And these tall ones are snapdragons. And they're doing well. They're doing well. I'm excited for these new blooms. There we go. The gazanias are a new plant this year. That one might be snapdragon as well, or it might be weed. I think it's a snapdragon. I'm not sure how the plant itself is really pretty. I like the leaves and the pattern and everything else. But I planted them because I wanted flowers. And so far, their flowers have been a little want, not as big and beautiful. Just these little stringy flower petals, which has been kind of disappointing, I'm not going to lie. So I like the plants themselves. I think they're really pretty. But I was hoping for bigger, prettier blossoms. And these are supposed to be perennials, so if they come back next year, I'll have to make some choices. But there's our volunteer sunflower. It actually got uprooted because we just tore up the weed mat here in an effort to not let it get too grown over. Because weed mat, if you see that right there, all of that has weed mat underneath it. This right here has weed mat underneath it. It's not going to be easy to pull up when it's time. Unfortunately, we're a little lazy, but when we pulled up the weed mat, that got pulled out and my son replanted it. And sunflowers don't transplant nicely, but this one is fighting, so it's not going to get to the 10 feet tall that it could have, but that's okay. This is one of my flowers. This is called a delphinium, and you're seeing it at the tail end, unfortunately. But they grow these really tall stalks, and then all of these really pretty blue flowers bloom on it. The deer have had their way, a lot of it, but despite that, they still put off a bunch of flowers. So, and on to our wild area here. Like I said, I felt like I did really well with weeds this year, and then you let loose for a week or two, or you neglect for a week or two, and one weed turns into a forest. So everything along the fence here, those are all weeds, unfortunately. I let them get out of hand, and I need a trimmer to take them down, but trimmer might hit my plants. So we have some snapdragons here, some zinnias here. There's a gazania down there somewhere, but because it's so short, it's not able to do much. And these are purple zinnias, which are super pretty. I did have somebody ask me why I wasn't cutting them and putting them in bouquets. And really the only purpose for these flowers is to look pretty when I come out here. No, the reason why I have these flowers is to attract the pollinators to my garden. I also love to see them, to see their blooms, because I think they're gorgeous. Oh, this one looks like a double. I don't know how that happened, but that's oh, that's pretty. So pretty. Yeah, really, I just want to get the pollinators into my garden. So these are our jalapeno plants. This one got eaten by a rabbit, so it's a little stunted. But we already have one delicious jalapeno that could be picked, or I could wait. So our experiment this year was tomatoes, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but this is the big boy tomatoes. This one is San Maranzo. I don't know if I'm saying that right. They don't seem to be as big as the Romas. We've got a few of them growing. They are not turning color yet. I'm a little nervous for whether then any of them will ripen in time, but we'll see. And then this right here is a Roma. It's huge and tall and big, and unfortunately starting to show signs of the blight that just takes out my tomatoes every year. So I'm going to need to come out and cut this off, thin out the plant. And there aren't a whole bunch of tomatoes, just a few. These are green peppers planted from seed. No peppers yet, that's okay. And more Romas. See, this Roma plant's doing much better, which is interesting because I believe they all came from the same seed packet. But if you look right here, beautiful. Now all we need is for it not to pour down rain and split all of my fruit. So we do have some nice sweet green peppers. These ones were bought at the nursery because my seedlings weren't doing so great. So we do have some peppers that we can start getting ready to harvest. Once again, more flowers. It's been a funny year. So the marigolds here, these are white marigolds. They smell just as fragrant as the yellow and orange marigolds. I think they're prettier. But maybe that's because I'm so used to the yellow and orange ones. It's nice to see a different color. But my zucchini patch. Every year I plant them so far apart that I question why I'm wasting so much space in the garden. And then every year I wonder why I didn't plant them farther apart. But we have 2 plants per hole. I should have probably just let one of them grow. But we have a bunch of good zucchini in there. I've already harvested for the day, although that one there is almost ready. So that zucchini is up to my chest. It's very tall. And it's no wonder that I've missed a couple already. They've gotten too big. Here are normal marigolds, which are bigger and bushier. Very pretty. Our beans are doing well. As you can see, we have nice bean pods. Like I said, this first one is Great Northern. The second one with the purple flowers, these are black beans. And then the third and fourth one are pinto beans and kidney beans. And I can't remember which one's which. I'll know when I harvest it. So this is where the weed mat ends, which, can you tell how well the weed mat has kept it? I was determined to use weed spray, and I did, but I used a more environmentally friendly one, and it just hasn't worked as well. So we'll see what to do next year. But more zinnia, and then our poor sweet potatoes. They're just not doing great. We tried a new thing this year, and it hasn't been great. So I hilled this up with dirt, and I threw some wood chips on top to try and keep the weeds down. And it has helped with the weeds, but the potato plants themselves just haven't. And then it might also be because I got them into the ground a little too late. So that might be my bad. But my husband here, this is his potato patch, which he planted on time. But when he hilled them up, he just threw wood chips and dirt on top, and he wasn't careful with the plants. So we actually have not as many as we should have. In fact, this whole section of weeds here should have potatoes sticking up, but it doesn't. So this is called nasturtium, I think. No, I can't remember what kind of flower this is, but I planted this and we rototilled over it, and I thought, oh, bummer. And look at them. They're blooming beautifully. I might try to transplant them. So I won't go over the fence there, but that is our green bean patch there. they're a little thin this year. When I planted them, it rained and it rained and it rained and it rained, which I think a bunch of the seeds got just drowned out. And just beyond that, I tried to plant some cucumbers and those got rained out. None of those grew. But then you can see the pumpkin patch we planted a little bit late this year, but it is thriving. It's doing well. So the weeds have won, but that's okay because every year I come back and I try to do a little better. So who knows what we'll do next year. We'll have a lot of personal things going on, so definitely still having a garden next year, but trying to figure out how to make plans to make it lower maintenance. But we shall see. And there it is, end of July, so there is our mid-season garden tour.